If you're a golfer with back pain who would like to hit the ball longer and straighter, most importantly without any more back pain, this video is for you. Are you currently making one of these two big mistakes that's robbing you of distance and killing your back time and time again? Stay tuned. My name is Dr. Payal Patel, and I specialize in helping active adults, mainly golfers, get back to living their most confident and athletic life out on the golf course without any more back pain going on. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about two common mistakes that we see all the time within the golf community. Things that people think are acceptable, types of movements and compensations that they might create over time, but that ultimately continue to create all this extra tension, all this extra torque through their back, and time again it makes it so that maybe you start off the season just fine, but over the course of the season your back is going to start to deteriorate to the point where it starts to become more problematic for you down the line. So I want to start off this season strong and get this information out to you so you can do something about it right now. So first and foremost, I'm going to go over the first compensation that we see often. So I'm going to show you one thing that we see often is that people actually tend to use their backs far more than they should, simply because they don't have access to their hips as well as they should. So I'm going to show you what it should look like when you're loading up the swing. So if you start off in your stance right here, okay, from this position, I'm going to hold my imaginary club right here. As you start off, you should be able to have your hips sitting back, and you should be able to feel the weight evenly through your foot. But most importantly, what we see often, one compensation we see often is that many people will jut their butt back and then they'll crank open on their back so that their chest is facing forward as they do this. What happens here is that right before you even start your swing, you're creating a lot of extra tension through your low back, your mid back, your low back, and even through your hips. What's happening here is that before you even went back into coil in through your swing, went back to load into your swing, you've already started off with a decent amount of tension. So then when you come to follow through, it just creates a lot of extra tension through the low back there. So that's one common mistake we see. Conversely, here's the second one. We'll see this often with people who aren't quite sure what a neutral spine looks like or aren't sure how to load their hips properly. So same concept, you're sitting back into your stance, but many times what we'll see here is people start to come forward and round forward over top of their club. So what will happen here is you lose control of your back, and now you've got a lot of strain in the opposite way through your back. Instead, what you've got here is a spine that's not secure at all. You've got no access to your hips because you're slouched over on top of them. This is no way to load up and drive any power through your swing. So instead what happens is as you're hunched, there's no amount of room available for you to actually create any sort of loading or follow through. So instead you're not able to get any power behind your swing anymore. So that ultimately looks like a lot less distance, a lot less power, and essentially one way to kind of deteriorate your back over time. So here's what you want your swing to look like. I'll kind of give you a little bit of my summary of this. When you start off in that position, your hips have to be able to take in a large part of this, the stress in order to develop power. All of our power comes from glutes, hamstrings, quads. Those are the big muscles, those are the powerhouses. If you start to rely on all the tiny little muscles in your back, you're no longer creating as much power as you possibly could. So the goal is to sit back, really stretch through these muscles so that you can kind of load into them and then push through them. So ready, this is what it looks like. As I'm standing here, it should look like you're kind of able to shift through into the little hip that you're loading. This hip should pull back and you should be able to rotate right over it. From here, you should be able to come through this position, leading with your hip, pushing through into the other hip to come around and release. Now the goal is that if you're able to load up this hip properly, you don't actually overextend through your back the whole time. Many times what we'll see is people who aren't able to do this, they'll turn their hip along with it and they'll crank back on their back as they do it. So that's essentially what we're looking at in terms of creating all this extra stress through your back that shouldn't be there, okay? I'm happy to extend this information to you today. I really hope that this helps you get your season off to the right start. We actually do have, here at Adapt Physical Therapy, we have 4 more spots available for this month for free golf body assessment screens, which are essentially screens designed to help you understand yourself as a golfer in order to get rid of any sort of back pain that you might be having. Just a little bit of just a way to give yourself a little bit more insight as to what's going on with your own body. So those screens, we have 4 more available. Go ahead and click the link below if you have any desire to do one of them. It'll send you to a page where you can learn more information about it. Again, I'm Dr. Patel. Nice to meet you. Hope to see you soon.